Happy Memorial Day, everybody. This holiday was originally set for veterans who had lost their life in a previous war, and then it was extended to all veterans. And so I would just like to take a moment to honor any person that you might know that lost themselves in the armed services, somebody you might read of, a friend or a relative. Let's just take a moment of silence and close our eyes. And if there's a name that you particularly want to bless, just say it out loud, and we'll bless these wonderful people that served our country. Theodore. And in this moment, we bless them. We express our extreme gratitude and appreciation for all they did to benefit this country and to enhance our lives. And I'd like to take a moment to recognize those people that have been in the armed services. If you're a veteran of any sort, please stand up so we can honor you. Any veterans here today? Thank you all for everything you've done. This being Memorial Day, I'm going to talk a little bit today about memory, but more specifically, I'm going to talk about the mind. Now, most of us here are computer literate. We've been on the computer. We know how to navigate to a certain degree and how to get things done. And the computer is just an incredible, amazing advancement of technology. But it's really pretty simple in design because the computer was designed after our brain. It's very much the same way. Now, our brain has three different levels of activity, as does a computer. We have the screen, which represents the conscious mind. The screen tells us what's there at this moment. And then we have the memory, which is similar to our subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is like a warehouse, so to speak, or it's like a library. Every single thing that's happened to us throughout our entire lives stored in the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind takes anything in. It doesn't determine what is true or what isn't true. It will just accept whatever is given to it, very much like the earth. You can plant corn in the earth and it'll grow it. You can plant nightshade, a deadly poison, in the earth and it'll grow it. It doesn't care. The earth has that fertility. It has what's needed to grow things. Same thing with our subconscious mind. It's meant as a depository for us to call on in regards to how we will act or how we will think in the future. And most of the time, that's automatic. Then we have what's called the higher mind. And the higher mind is that part of the mind that we haven't particularly explored yet. It's where the wisdom of the divine lies. It is all the realm of potential that we can move to. So we have the computer. We have the screen, which is like our conscious mind. We have the memory, which is like our subconscious mind. And we have the higher mind, which is like new software for the computer. Now, the thing about a computer, just like the subconscious mind, if you program into the computer 2 + 2 = 5, and then at some point in the future you ask the computer how much is 2 + 2, it's going to answer 5. It believes that, and it's the only way it can through the memory. It believes that 2 + 2 is 5 because that's the way it's been programmed. Well, the same thing is true for all of us. We come into this world, our mind is like a brand new computer that has never been programmed, and as we grow up, different parts of our environment, loved ones, society, culture, starts to impress upon us, or sometimes impose upon us, certain thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and perceptions that we accept as being true. And therein lies the problem with all levels of inferiority complex, all levels of feeling unworthy. It's because somehow, somewhere that was impressed upon our mind, we accepted it as true, and so we go through life with a certain impairment, so to speak, in how we see ourselves. Now also, if you take a computer and say you drop it in the sidewalk, it's totally ruined. Say the hard drive is gone and there's no memory left. But we can overhaul the computer and put in a new hard drive. And I bring this up specifically because it brings us to the story of Richard Jones. Richard Jones was a person that I grew up with in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and he was just a little guy, under 5 foot, but he was very, very ornery, and he was very mean. He had no respect for anybody, and he freely voiced all of his opinions, even if they were bullish. So most people assume that because Richard had grown up in a environment where people were oftentimes teased, that he was put to a lot of abuse as he was growing up and teased a lot. So he became mean. For a living, he fixed water towers. And he'd go to these small towns, he'd empty out the water, he'd get inside and crawl around and fix the leaks. So one day while he was doing this, Richard lost his footing, or his cables broke or something, and he fell about 20 feet and landed on his head. They rushed him to the hospital. He's in a coma for about 2 weeks. And he woke up, he didn't know anything. He didn't even know himself. Friends and loved ones had been sitting around the clock waiting for him to come back to consciousness. But when he did, he didn't recognize them either. His total memory was gone completely. Now, this was somewhat of a phenomena to most of the people that knew Richard. So they started going to the hospital to visit him. But whereas before the accident, people would see Richard, they'd try to avoid him, they'd go a different direction, or they'd have very small communications with him. Now they came up and they had a sense of compassion or a sense of sympathy for him. And they were nice to him and they were loving to him and they held his hand. And Richard, seeing this, responded in the same way. He still didn't know what his history was. He still didn't know what kind of a person he had been. He still didn't know who he was. But he knew that this interaction between the people that were coming to visit him felt very, very good. And so he began to react in that same way and to respond in a warm, loving way. He never, ever changed back to the person that he was. That mean, nasty, snarly little guy never came forth again. And as his memory started to come back in little bits and pieces, primarily he started all over and building the life that he wanted. Now I tell you this because I'm sure with everybody in here we have memories of a certain degree that aren't comfortable. I'm sure there's aspects of other people that we don't necessarily like. Maybe there's aspects of ourselves that we don't like. But the point is, the memory can be changed. That's all it is a stored thought. And you can change that. Our memory actually affects our physical condition as well. All of the memories inside that are of a brutal nature or a disturbing nature or an angry nature affect our energy, affect our immune system, and they cause our health conditions to either get worse or to get better. Now, the reason that we're sitting here today in this place is because of a woman named Myrtle Fillmore. And when Myrtle Fillmore was 40 years old, the doctors told her that she had a disease that she inherited, and that she only had 6 months to live. I believe it was tuberculosis or something like that. Well, Myrtle didn't take the medical people's opinion. She decided to seek alternative methods. So she went to different speeches and talks and seminars by people who believe there's a greater way to heal through the mind-body connection. And she started to meditate because she had heard that she did not inherit sickness and that every cell that's born is born whole and healthy. So she started to meditate. And she went to the cellular level and she told her cells, or she affirmed to her cells, and that they were loved and that they were loving and that they were healthy and whole. She went on to live another 50 years without the disease. Now the point that I bring up is 100 years later, as people start exploring the mind-body connection, they discover that cancer cells give birth to other cancer cells. But it's not the cells that are cancerous, it's the memory within the cell that they inherit. So they are born healthy and they are born whole. It's just that when the memory starts to take hold and dictate what it should grow into, it grows into a cancerous cell. What Myrtle discovered is that she could change the memory of the cancerous cells in her body. And that's exactly what the great doctors of mind-body science have discovered today, and that there is a memory in there that can be changed, and diseases whether they be of the body or the mind, can be moved beyond. Every one of us in here is a result of everything that's happened to us up to this point in time. Wouldn't you agree? To a certain degree. I mean, life has basically made you, and all the thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and perceptions that you have tell you who you are. It tells you who you like. It tells you what you like. It tells you how you want things to be, all as a result of memory. But what if you have a situation in your life that is reoccurring and it is continually filled with anger or discomfort or disease? That too is a result of memory. And just as the cells in the body can have their memory transformed, so can we transform those emotional memories that prevent us from experiencing the best life that we can. It's all within us. We have that kind of power. It's safe to say that the greatest power that you have is, first of all, the power of the mind, and second of all, the power of the memories that you store in your mind, because they dictate to you every waking moment of the day. Experts in mind study tell us that over 95% of all the things we do on a daily basis, over 95% of the things we do are done out of habit or come forth from memory. So it's kind of like we're on autopilot, just moving forward in acting out every single day as we've acted it out in the past. If you want a better life, something needs to change. Jesus said this very thing when he tried to tell the disciples that you need to change your thinking if you're going to engage in this ministry. If you're going to be with me, you can't think of the way you did before. And he even said, I encourage you to leave your mother and leave your father, which seemed like pretty harsh direction at that point. But what he is saying is you have to break free of those traditions. You have to break free of these discriminations that you have against other tribes and other people. If you meet a rude person, don't respond rudely. Respond in a kind, compassionate way. If you find resistance, don't fight back. Kick the dust from your feet and move on. What he's saying is you have a whole different life ahead of you, and it's just a matter of you making the decision what you want to change in regards to how you live your life, and then implementing a repetitious course of creating what they call a memory of the future. Now that might seem kind of like an oxymoron at first, but it really isn't. A memory of the future is determining how you want to be, or how you want to act, or how you want to react at some point in the future. And once again, hypothetically, say it's Thanksgiving, the entire family's gathered together, and every single year when this happens, you know that you're going to have a run-in with some relatives that's there. Whether it's their fault or your fault, you just don't get along. There's always some sort of conflict. There's always some sort of an uproar, always some sort of a disturbance that's happened ever since this person came into the family. But you want to change that. So memory of the future would be to begin to imagine what is going to happen this Thanksgiving Day. You can imagine that person being there. Imagine that person being in front of you. Imagine that person throwing some disrespect or some sort of resentment towards you. And remember how you're going to react. That you're going to move from the bullets, and you're not going to get upset. You practice this in your mind. It becomes the new way that you are. As we move into meditation this morning, Nian is going to guide us. And think about anything in your life from the past that still has a disturbing essence to it. Anything that you'd like to change, and then the next step would be, how do you want it to be? And that's the biggest thing. You have to determine how you want your life to be. You can't just say, I don't want this, without having something in its stead. I do want this. So as we move into meditation, just find one little part of your life that you're going to create a garden in, and plant those seeds of how you expect things to be in the future. We will now move into meditation.
So we take this opportunity right here and right now to become fully awake to this present moment of life. This is the moment of choice, a moment in which we are empowered to choose the highest and the best in us. As Duke referred to this as our highest self. We allow that self right here and right now to tell us what and who we really are. Whole and holy. Because behind the memories we have of our life stories is this deepest memory of the spirit that we truly are. The spirit in which we live and move and have our infinite being. So as we take a deep breath and go deeper within to that place that remembers truth, we allow that new consciousness to flow over all the old thoughts of lack and limitation, and to heal every part of our being, here now, in the silence. And as you gently bring your attention back into the space of this room and of this present and glorious moment of your life, I invite you to feel the lightness and sense of freedom that comes from having let go of some of your old programming, the woundedness that you now leave behind as you move forward into this next moment, this next phase, this next day of your life. Steeped in the sacred memory of that which you were before all the stories of your life began. Spirit, the truth of your being. May this truth, may this memory inform each moment of your life to come. So it is, and we let it be. Amen. I am free.